Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Advance, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment. And we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. So let's get straight into this topic here, guys. So as you guys know, Stephen A. Smith has been making headlines for the kind of back and forth that he's having with Jaylen Brown, right? And because the situation seems so messy, especially after Jaylen Brown responded to him, various people began to chime in. Kwame Brown, was it Mase and a few other people, but Mase in particular made some comments about Stephen A. Smith. We did a show about it. Everyone saw it. So Stephen A., I knew that he was going to respond to Mase and the other people, and I was 100% on the money. Rashard McCants was another one, yes. So he did a show last night addressing all of these people, Kwame Brown, Mase, Rashard McCants, and probably some other people. But in Mase in particular, he decided to go at Mase. And essentially, he was saying that, look, you are not qualified to question my journalistic skills. I've been doing this for 30 years. And it's almost like you being not qualified to ask me about, how I am as a journalist is the same thing as me not being qualified to ask you anything or comment on anything that you have done in the music business. He also spoke about the fact that that there's stories that are put out in media, because you've been in entertainment for a long time, where we don't always reveal the sources. And he basically was, not getting at Mase, but basically saying why he was qualified to say what he says. And Mase essentially doesn't have the credentials to even talk to them about this issue. Take a look at Stephen A. Smith here and what he had to say here.
We gonna go to Mase first. Mr. Mase himself, rap mogul extraordinaire. You understand? With the Is What It Is podcast with my boy Cameron, who's been doing a great job on First Take on ESPN the last couple of Tuesdays, by the way. I'm going to bring him back throughout the playoffs because he's done a hell of a job. But that's neither here nor there. His partner, Mase, from the Is What It Is podcast, took the liberty of addressing yours truly about what I said with regards to Jay. First of all, respectfully, Mase, you don't hear me critiquing hip-hop artists and how they do their job, because I ain't qualified. My brother, when it comes to journalism, you're not qualified to critique me like that. Because first things first, you are incredibly inaccurate. Number one, Jaylen Brown and I don't have a beef. So what? He got emotional. Fuck Stephen A, B, and C. So what? You didn't hear him say anything about me over the last 2 years because we didn't have an issue over the last 2 years. When he had an issue with me, it was because I reported, I got a text on the air where somebody in the know, that it was confirmed by two other individuals that it was absolutely true, that Jaylen Brown, who is a brilliant brother and a tremendous player, whose resume warrants attraction from Madison Avenue and beyond, wasn't getting those things because he wasn't liked, because he was perceived as difficult to deal with. That's reporting. Now, for some people that want to say, well, you know what? Who's your source? Because remember, he wore the T-shirt saying, state your source, state your source. It's right there. Remember all of that? People report on the White House. Do they tell their sources? People report on the Supreme Court. Do they tell their sources? People report on Wall Street. Do they tell their sources? People report on industries throughout America. They don't reveal their source. Why? Because you'll never get the information. Are you going to sit up here with a straight face, Mase, and say you've never been a source for somebody that's licensed to disseminate information? You never said anything off the record. You never said a thing to a soul that said, look, man, don't quote me. You've never done. Now, I'm not saying I know that to be true because I don't know. Maybe you did. I'm just saying, if you didn't do it yourself, you certainly are aware of the fact that that has happened before. Not to bring up P. Diddy in any kind of negative connotation or anything like that, because he's got enough problems. But the fact of the matter is that when you see the documentaries on him and things of that nature, you know that he had sources. You know that he had people that he could reach out to and disseminate information in his spin. What I'm trying to say to you is that because you're from that world, Mase, and you're experienced in that world, you know that happens. Why all of a sudden that it happens in the world of sports reporting is it foreign? Because I can assure you the person stacking, I don't know who you were talking to because I couldn't see it on camera, and I apologize for that. I assure you that the person that you was asking about journalism doesn't have 30 plus years of experience like I do. They haven't had a history of breaking stories the way that I've broken stories. I didn't just get on First Take running my mouth. There is a reporting resume that I have: New York Daily News, Philadelphia Inquirer, beat writer, college writer, NBA columnist, general sports columnist. Before the advent of social media and YouTube and all of this other stuff, 20 people came before me as general sports columnists in this nation's history. 20. I'm number 21. And we're going to ask somebody that I can't see on camera to critique what real journalism is. My brother, you got my number. All you have to do is call and ask. I'd have told you. I'd have told you. So let's get that part out of the way first. My point is, I'm not bringing you up, P. Diddy up, or anything like that in any kind of negative fashion, because I got love and respect for you. What I'm saying to you, Mase, is that all I'm trying to point out is you have been around people who have at least been a source to scribes, pundits, people, members of the fourth estate, which is journalism. You've been around people who we all know have utilized the media over the years. So don't act like you didn't know that, number one. Number two, Jaylen Brown, what did I say about him? Go back and look at the tapes. What I said about Jaylen Brown back then is, I don't feel this way about him. I think he's worthy. I think he's a star in this league. I think they're castrating him. I don't like that. He doesn't deserve that. But this is what they're saying. And he was stuck on, tell us your source, because he wanted the world to know who said that about him. I can't do that. So it wasn't really his problem with me, because everybody brought up the fact that we sat down and talked with one another. He acknowledged his problem was not with me. Right there in that footage when I went to Boston just to interview him, his problem was not with me. His problem was, who said that to you? Who are they? And if you are not going to tell us who they are, then you have a responsibility not to disseminate that information. Fair. Here's the problem. It's backed up by a couple of things. Jaylen Brown turned down over $50 million in endorsement deals from major sneaker companies to pursue full ownership and creative control of his own brand, 741. Since his endorsement contract with Adidas ended in 2021, Brown had been something of a sneaker free agent, quietly developing 741. His philosophy on partnerships is equally deliberate. Brown has said most of his deals are done, quote, on my terms, requiring creative input, contributions to his foundation, and no clauses allowing termination if he speaks out publicly. Terms, he says, standard contracts rarely offered. His first major endorsement deal, signed in late 2025, was with Oakley, described as a multi-year collaboration blending innovation, sport style, and eyewear with plans to integrate with his 741 brand. His current known endorsements include Beats by Dre, his own 741 brand, and Pepsi. Is that enough for reporting? What I talked about was before that happened. or during it happening. And what was the impetus that I brought up, Mase? Team USA was in Paris. It's in Paris. Jaylen Brown was in the finals a couple of years earlier. He was in conference finals. He'd ultimately win an NBA championship. Are you sitting down for this, Mase? The brother is a perennial better than 22, 23 point per game scorer as the second option on the Boston Celtics. It's Jason Tatum first and then him before Jason Tatum went down. Drew Holiday and Derek White, along with Jason Tatum, were all picked for the Olympic team ahead of Jaylen Brown. Does that sound like somebody that's liked to you? Does that sound like that's somebody that's appreciated to you? What I said correlated and fell right in line with that reality. Go back on the airwaves, Google me, look it up, and see what I said. I defended him. What are y'all?
So you heard what Smith's response was here. Here's my take on all of this. My take is simply this. If everyone is kind of pointing fingers at you, at a certain point, you got to kind of ask yourself, okay, wait a minute. Is there something I'm missing here? Because we all have a blind side. We all don't see things like, what's the word? We all have our blind spots. We may think that we're doing things perfectly well. We may think that we're 100% correct, but people that are looking at us from the outside may say, hey, man, you're missing this. You're missing that point. So maybe Stephen A. may want to consider doing some reflection, self-reflection. I don't know. I'm not a psychiatrist or whatever. I'm not saying anything. I'm not giving him any advice. But I want to get to the other aspect of this. And Tural brought up this point last night, and I was watching this show. And the aspect I want to talk about is how there's this kind of green light on Jaylen Brown. Now, I want you guys to just follow me for a second here. If you remember, Jaylen Brown and Stephen A. Smith already had a sit-down. And the sit-down was prompted because Stephen A. said that there were people in NBA circles that don't like Jaylen Brown. They think he's smart or whatever. He's better than people, blah, 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 blah. And it's clear to see that Jaylen was being blackballed to a certain extent. If you look at Team USA, him not making it on the team, that's pretty incredible. That the finals MVP wasn't good enough to make it on the national team. Like, that's crazy, right? And then him and Stephen A. Smith had to sit down, and Jaylen Brown said, well, who are these people that are saying this? And Stephen A. Smith said, I can't reveal that. You know, that's my journalistic. If I tell you that, I won't ever have any sources anymore, right? But then he brought up something else, which was this. Stephen A. doesn't have this reluctance to go at Jaylen Brown the same way he does to go at LeBron. Even the day after LeBron embarrassed him by showing him up the day he got his contract, just pretty much embarrassed him. The next day when he came on First Take, he was very docile. At certain points, I thought Stephen A. was about to cry. Seriously, right? And it became clear to me. Stephen A. is employed by ESPN. ESPN has a contract with the NBA. So Stephen A. Smith's hands are tied when it comes to really getting at LeBron. But his hands are not tied when it comes to getting at Jaylen Brown, which further proves the point that Jaylen Brown is there's a green light on him. And the very people that Stephen A. Smith is saying that don't like Jaylen Brown, that are getting at him behind the scenes, he's essentially doing their job for them. I mean, when you have a segment where Kendrick Perkins, a former Celtic, is coming out and revealing text messages about that guy, they would never do anything like that about LeBron. Ever. Because one guy has protection and the other guy doesn't. It is clear at this point that Jaylen Brown got a green light on his head. That you can get at him. You can go at him. And it's now clear to us that there's certain people you can mess with and there's certain people you can't mess with. That's my takeaway from all of this. You guys let me know what you think in the comments.